Hello.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. I'm sitting by a fire, just relaxing. How are you? How's
I'm
work?
you know what? It was maniac manner, as I say to my family. Every day is another horror film.
Where do you work?
I work at a local Walgreens.
Oh, yep. That has to be an interesting experience.
It really is because I get to see different emotions of people every day.
Uh-huh.
And I see either the best in people or I see the worst in people. And recently, I've been seeing a lot of the worst.
Can I have a couple of examples?
Yeah, sure. So, so are not allowed to wear gloves, and now it's becoming a thing of people want us to either not touch their items or they want us to start wearing gloves, and we will say this is why we don't do it. And some people go, well, it doesn't matter, I'm worried about my safety. I'm like, well, what about me? What about the store?
Yeah.
Also, toilet paper is a big thing nowadays. And every time we refill it, we have to block the aisles because before people would like climb in and like start stealing things right off the aisles and the shelves, and so we would have to block people now, and just to get at least everything on in a couple minutes of just adjusting everything and then waiting until like we are ready, and then by the time we close, it's half of it's gone by now.
Wow. That that's a lot. You're definitely in a weird place at a weird time.
Yep. But you know what? I do it for the kids. No, not really.
Do it
Uh,
for the kids.
yeah, we do it for the kids. Shout out to the kids. I don't have any kids. But otherwise, how have you been adjusting to this new normal?
Oh, I mean, it takes a lot of phases, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I've been through a lot of phases with this. Right now, I've just got back to Lincoln, Nebraska, which is where I was born and raised, and I'm staying with my mom and her partner. And I was quarantining with my partner for, oh my goodness, a while there. Like we were dealing with, going from school, my school being shut down, into actually like socially quarantining together and like really practicing um, social distancing for I think that it was about 16 days that it was like for real, really serious, like stuck in an apartment in Chicago. And we both decided to go back to our respected homes, and it's been a new step for me. I've been here for about 3 or 4 days, and it's just been nice to have nature and have space. But I'm also appreciating that I was able to experience and feel that different hurt and presence and awareness of living in a city during these times, because I feel like it's a completely different experience than living somewhere that is out in the suburbs. It's so surreal, obviously, because you're in a place that hundreds of people go in every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean, I was just saying, like, I was just taking a breath, thinking back to those times a couple weeks ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you said these new phases, and I completely agree. Like when the final days at Columbia, where we went to school, I think I was in this very much like a psycho phase of the violin strings are out of tune and the walls are pushing in. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what's behind that door. And then all of a sudden, we're now went through that door, and then I went through a sort of acceptance phase,
Hmm.
and now here I am in this pondering thoughts phase of when is this going to end? What am I going to be like when this is over? How am I going to act with people when this is all over?
Hmm.
And it's very curious because we don't know when this is over, and I think the more I see people, the more I get scared of people, and
Hmm.
I think nothing's gonna. I'm gonna have a hard time connecting with people again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I TA for Feldenkrais at Columbia,
Hmm.
and so for people who are listening that don't know what Feldenkrais is, it's a movement practice that Mm, that has to deal. One of the hardest things to do is actually explain what Feldenkrais is, but it's a movement practice that works on your perception of yourself, the world around you, and your body. It's a really beautiful practice. But we were doing our first Zoom classes on Friday, and we were having the same exact conversation um, because we were talking about how do we manifest our future during these times? How do we not just stay in our present fear, in our present moment? And how do we actually take good memories from the past and what we want to make in the future during these times? And one of the most beautiful things happened because I was leading a discussion there with some of the students, and everyone just had a different opinion on it and had a different opinion on that theory and felt just completely not like what one another felt about it. And I thought that that was the most beautiful thing, bringing up the fact that this has to also really correspond with a topic on mental health. And everyone's mental health is different from one another, yet we share something in common right now with the entire world. And that's really beautiful in some way. And
Yeah.
so I think that during these times, there's such a paradox to the entire situation. But even being in the city, I will say, brought such a okay. I don't want to use the word peace, but the fact that it people weren't going to work, they were at home, a lot more exercise, this and this, and you can kind of compare it more to a European culture of slowing down and finally taking time for yourself and your family, because that's what is left to do. Also, there are a lot of people who have to work like you, so it's not that complete slowdown of society. But I saw just a lot of different attitudes and energy, and me and my partner were just like talking about how it was so like transformative from what it had been a week before to being into this, and people were at their homes all day.
Yeah, I've been wanting to have a couple days to myself to really figure out. I really want to discover more of isolation than just being in my room or being at work. And so, like, I'm planning on going on more walks, more time, more still. I think I've been living a lot more of ruckus and distractions, where I think I should stop getting distracted and start facing everything, not conquering my fears, but sort of observing my fears and just exploring them, because I think I could find something to latch onto, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I took Feldenkrais, and I know Suzanne, the teacher, and she's lovely. She reminds me of a much older Mary Tyler Moore every time I see her.
Yes. Oh, that's spot on.
And I'm this is my bad impression, Suzanne, but every time she opens the door, she goes, "It's a wonderful day to do Feldenkrais." My
Yeah.
heart melts. So as her TA, how do you two come to terms with this new situation? Because Feldenkrais is very much a human contact. Would you say a human contact class? How do you approach it now in a Zoom meeting and during a pandemic?
Yeah. Well, I think that that's such a great question because practices, it's like whenever you were gonna you told me or asked me to be on this podcast, I was like, how am I handling this? Okay, well, like 100 different ways. But that's one of the important things is to, even if you can only do one thing a day, everyone processes this differently, and you have to accept that and give yourself permission to accept it the way that you want to. But for me, that's through my practices, and so being really into yoga and meditation and Feldenkrais. And Feldenkrais is such a grounding practice, and it's something that's so important that we're doing right now during this pandemic, because it puts you back into your body, it puts you back into focusing on yourself and getting into a meditative state that you're connecting to a higher consciousness than your physical reality. And so going into doing a hands-on class, because we as TAs slash Suzanne obviously go around and help people by actually touching their bodies with consent, and actually physically helping them. And so it's a really different process, and we all TAs had to get on a Zoom call and figure out how we were going to do it, because the conversational aspect of the class is just as important. And so what we've ended up doing is trying to work with training the eye whenever movements aren't like what Suzanne's like trying to explain the lesson to be, but like just trying to do our best with Zoom. Like Suzanne can still teach over Zoom, but it's just a little bit trickier, and it was something really cool that we all came together to help her figure out how to make this a really effective class. And it went really well last week, because people were like, I didn't realize how much I needed this until doing it now. And just seeing that you can help someone and you can be a positive influence in someone else's life. And this classroom full of people who are all around the world coming together to do this really sacred practice, it's been really beautiful, challenging, but important.
That's great. So transitioning, so we were going to graduate in May, and
Yes.
and because of this pandemic, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, or until next year. How did you respond to this whole graduation cancellation and then a possible May 2021 commencement?
Gosh. I want to just pop in a President Kim meme right now,
No,
but
that's okay.
it's been hard. I will say I didn't expect it to be so hard. I think it also kind of draws on some society norms, because it's like, I want that ceremony. I want my parents to come in and my family, and to be able to celebrate in May in the springtime. My birthday was on the day we were going to graduate. So it was
What?
May 17th
Oh,
is, wait, was ours on the 16th? There's two graduations,
I think
16th, 17th.
I think we were the 16th.
Yes, so it was the second graduation day after, but my
Yeah.
whole family was going to be there and stuff. And so it's just a difficult thing, because ceremonies, especially in our culture, it's a big deal to be like, okay, you did it. Here you go, like stamp, blah, blah, blah. But it's been a surrendering process. I'm sad. I'm really sad. It feels like everything has just been swept under my feet. Like, all I have is me and my practices and what I've learned and my art. But in reality, I just feel like kind of everything's been taken away. And that's just the grieving process of it. And it's important to be able to see it as grief, because that's how it feels inside of myself. So it feels good to name it.
Yeah.
But the idea of having a ceremony 1 year after seems like the most bogus idea in the world. I at least thought for them to do it in December, but they're like, no, we're just going to have an extra ceremony for you the next year. It's just not fair. And I don't know if we're going to get money refunded, but in the end of the day, I really want to know the conversation around that, because what is happening is not what we're paying for.
Yeah. Do you think we could ever find acceptance in this idea of possibly having a graduation pushed back a year, or is that never going to happen?
I don't want to say never, but I mean, in reality, if we think who Columbia students are, what they are as a collective brain, I just feel like, okay, if we do have a graduation, then not a lot of people are going to go or show up, or people are going to move out of Chicago. And that kind of takes away from it too.
Hmm.
Because it's like, it's not the entire class. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think you can find acceptance in that?
No, I not now. Probably not for a
Yeah.
while, because now I'm in this phase for these final few weeks of I feel like I'm racing towards nothing, and that nothing has is going to just keep going. And because when I was excited about this semester was I'm going to finish out on top, and now
Hmm.
I'm not going to see these lovely teachers and students and colleagues again. Or I say again, but who knows? I might see some of them when this is over, but most of them probably not.
Yeah.
And that what really hurts, because like you said, I don't know anyone's goal in a year. Who knows? I could be out of Chicago. I could be in Canada. I want to go to
Hmm.
Canada.
You should go to Canada.
Yeah, we have an island up in Canada. I would love to live there. There's no Wi-Fi or anything.
Oh,
Yeah, I would try to go there once a year, but it's beautiful. Shout out Canada.
shout out Canada.
Canada's beautiful. Yeah, you ever been to
Yeah.
Canada?
No, I haven't. I want to go very bad.
Oh, it's great. My grandpa and his buddies back way back when built this cabin, and then they would go there every summer. And then when he had kids, he brought his kids, and then when those kids had their kids, they would bring their kids. So it was like a never-ending cycle, and it was beautiful. A week away from civilization, no Wi-Fi, and you just fish and you drink beer and you talk and you talk life, and you get all the inside jokes, and you clean the outhouse. That was gross.
Delish.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that sounds like some real hardcore living there.
yeah. It's
One with nature.
Yeah, one with nature. And like, yeah, it's funny. I don't think I haven't been back to that island in a long time, and I almost wish I would go. I would have gone during my time at Columbia, especially after like I took like a movement class or a Feldenkrais class, just to really see how I would feel in like nature, because I haven't, and I think that's really interesting. So I'm really hoping to go back soon, but I digress. So I'm curious. I go on a soapbox sometimes.
No,
Sometimes,
I love it. I know this about you, obviously.
yeah, we took two classes and 30 seconds of another class together.
You're right. I did drop that.
No,
You're right.
that's okay.
You want to share the classes?
Sure. So we took acting styles realism. We were scene partners for a day,
Yes.
and that was a fun class. And then we took a professional survival class with Barbara Robinson. Shout out Barbara.
Shout out Barbara. We love you with our whole
Oh,
hearts.
I just love talking to her because she can
Yeah.
just go on forever. And then we
Hmm.
took voice and text for 30 seconds, a class and a half.
A class and a half.
But
Yeah, yeah. Because I did show up late to the second class. It was an 8:30 a.m., guys, and I live 40 minutes out of downtown.
yeah.
So, and whenever you're in Chicago,
Hmm.
oh, wrapping it back to the topic. Whenever you're in Chicago, when it's not quarantine time and people all have to get up to work at 8:30 a.m. as well as you, you're literally packed like sardines in a can. You can't move. You can barely breathe on the train ride from the north side into, because I take the red line,
Yeah.
Belmont into Chicago. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. And so just thinking about that and already being like, I share so much germs with everyone on this train.
Hmm.
It's so weird to even think of that happening again. There's a lot of uncertainty, but maybe that's freeing in some way, because we have to wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. What do you think the response, or what do you think Chicago, or maybe even the country, is going to look like when this is all over?
Yeah, I've actually been at that point that I've started to think about that in the last 2 days. I feel the only thing that can really come to my mind is the loss of, first off, handshakes.
Yes.
But I feel like it would start by just limiting how many people can be in a store at once, less social gatherings, but there's going to be a point whenever, like Boys Town opens again and there are going to be music events and stuff like that. But I wonder how the country will react to these groups of people getting together. Like, that's the only answer I can really see and I really have in my mind so far, is just limiting how many people can be at a place at once, even when it's done, because I feel like this will be a constant paranoia for a long, long time.
Yeah. It's weird because personally, when I'm going to hear, all right, you can go back to where the way things were, I'm going to get very excited, and then I'm going to get invited to go hang out with some friends at a bar or go to a house party or something, and I'm going to be scared shitless of something's going to happen. I'm going to wake up the next day sick, or I'm going to hear something about someone, or I'm going to read an article the next day of we're going back to a shutdown, and I'm going to go back to this panic attack. And I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
It's very, I don't know. I'm really, I'll be confused. That's going to be the word. I'm going to be confused when we go back to a new normal.
Yeah, and I think everyone will, and I think it's really important that we keep a vocal conversation around, people's boundaries whenever we go back to these social situations and stuff, because, like, I'm very touchy and I'm such a hugger, and even hugs, it's important to start asking for consent for all of those kinds of things. And also being aware of people whenever you're in public places, especially now, but in the future too, to, respectively make your 6 feet distance. People were doing really good in Chicago, and then I got here to Nebraska where they're behind on us. And, we're at the grocery store today, me and my mom with our masks, and barely anyone had masks, people getting close. And it's just like, it's frustrating because it's like it's hit my community, but it hasn't hit yours yet. And you just see so many things or potential mistakes being made that it's just respectful for the people around you to show some sort of boundary respect.
Yeah. What's the situation like in Nebraska? How many cases is it? And you said it's going up, right?
Yeah, it's going up. What I've heard from my mom is that there are 33 cases right now, and they're starting to go up. Well, there were 33 cases when I got here, but slowly, because it's more of a suburban community. And that's what I know so far, but it's way different than Chicago because there hasn't been an actual outbreak here, and I don't feel like people are really that scared. There are some people with masks and stuff, but not enough. And I don't mean that as like I want to implement fear into people.
Yeah.
It's just there has to be something there to make those steps to progress the health of our entire world.
Do you feel like if you were never in Chicago before and when this is happening, would you respond differently to this pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah. How so?
I feel like I would be more selfish. I feel like I would be so much more selfish. I feel as if, like, being contained in an apartment and being in a place, where I live, that there's so many people and children, and going to the store, everything's smaller, and you don't have the freedom of driving in cars. You only can go on foot. Like, when me and my partner would leave my apartment, we would take like a walk a day, or we'd take the divvy bikes and put gloves on and ride them. But here I'm like, okay, cool, I can just drive my mom's car and I can go see this and this. And for me, it felt like being in the city was more of being in like this little box of surrendering your freedoms to help other people stay safe and stay healthy. And so I really do stand by that. My sister lives in New York City, so we're both in some of the most major American cities,
Mm-hmm.
and it brings a different appreciation and awareness to my impact in helping this coronavirus not spread any further
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can. I mean, we can't see it, so but I do think that I would have been more selfish if I was never in the city about how I responded to this situation.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious. So you went on these walks. You're with your partner. What other things are you doing to pass the time? Are we cooking a lot more? Are we journaling a lot more? Or what else?
Um, yeah, so I am I'm a vegan. It's
Okay.
been new. I've been a vegetarian for 5 years, and vegan, I don't know how long it's been. It's been like 4/5 months, maybe.
Hmm.
I don't have my start date, but I've been doing pretty good. There's been a couple cheats in there, of course,
Yeah.
but I've stayed away from cheese,
Good for you.
basically, so that's positive. Pizza was my problem. I love pizza.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I've been cooking. I've been cooking a lot. My mom is so happy that I'm home and I'm cooking so much. But yeah, me and my partner love to cook. So that was really exciting. It was that was a lot of exactly that. That's what it centered around. Our creativity was cooking, because being in Chicago, it was a lot of strained energy and a lot of just feeling heavy.
Hmm.
Um, Me and my roommate also have a business called Alley Cats, and so we take furniture that is put in the alleys and
Hmm.
we refurbish it. And
Cool.
so I was painting furniture and selling it online. Our Instagram is alleycats_Chicago. You guys should check us out. It's super awesome. I know I just put a plug
No,
in
that's
there,
perfect.
but
I was going to ask you at the end
that's,
if you want to plug anything, so go right ahead.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
subtle.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
very subtle, very casual.
yeah. Talk about realism right there.
Thank you, Stephanie Shaw.
Thank you, Stephanie Shaw. I talked to Brian on Tuesday. That was very fun and bizarre.
That's great. I have class with him on Thursday, so I've got to see him too. It's great. It's
It
so
it
great.
it is. He still doesn't know I can do my impression of him, and I think I've done it for everyone else but him. It's
Oh, he would love it. Do you
well,
think you would love it?
no, no.
Okay. This isn't podcast worthy material, is it?
Well, it always is. But so for this is for luckily this is hashtag Columbia week, so this will make sense. So Brian Shaw is a professor, and he does this thing where he just goes, yeah, yeah, for sure, yeah,
That is
yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure. That's hilarious. Yeah, for sure. He just I just do that, and people are like, that's Brian.
It's so Brian.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those teachers that have that, like, for people who don't know Brian, it's one of those teachers that have the really bad habit that you're like, if I made a drinking game out of this, I would be blacked out by the end of class. Like, if I took a drink every single time Brian Shaw said for sure, like, I would probably have alcohol poisoning, and all the love to that, like, if that's what you're into. But
Mm-hmm.
sadly, I have to make another game around it that isn't for the for sure,
Yeah.
or the pauses in between the words, you know.
Yeah. Well, that was really good. See,
Thank you so
if you
much.
do the for sure, because he does it like 5 times in a row, so it's like constant shot after shot. You'll be dead after the fourth
Mm-hmm.
shot. So
You're right.
I have no problem with it. I think it's hilarious. I think you gotta start doing what he does, like the voices.
Yep.
We
Yep.
because then he starts talking like this for some odd reason. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's
It's a different tunnel in his brain. He just goes in many different tunnels. He's a fast thinker. He thinks on his feet. He's an improviser, a deviser. He's just here and there and here and there. And Brian Shaw, plug for Brian Shaw, the neo-futurists.
Oh, they're great.
If you haven't seen them in Chicago, you should check them out. I have seen them before, and they were pretty cool.
Yeah. I think you were in at Rose Bruford during his show last spring, but he played a monkey. And he came up to me in the audience in monkey, and he was talking normal, but he goes, "The show's about to start. Did you know that?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "Of course you didn't, because you didn't read the fucking script." And then he just ran off for no reason. I was like, okay.
Oh my god.
That's fantastic. But Taylor, I can't imagine another person I want to talk to right now during a pandemic.
God bless.
Yeah, so
thank you.
Thank you for taking some time to come on. This was a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed it. I thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening to this episode of You Have a Minute, a daily isolated podcast. My thanks to Taylor Griffith for calling and taking some time to chat with me. What a lovely person to talk to. I love just talking human emotions with her. I think she is a beautiful person just to talk to about life and the body and Feldenkrais. If you don't know what Feldenkrais is, Google some Feldenkrais and look that up. It's very good. Just to let you know, tomorrow is Easter. Shout out Easter. I'm gonna do my best to get an episode in. I don't know. So my streak of episodes might come to an end, or who knows? Maybe I'll just do a solo show. We'll see. But until then, wash your hands, isolate yourself, wear masks, keep flattening the curve, and I'll see you then.